It's time for another Dice Tower review with the Chief, Bart Brunsheen.
Hello, it's the Chief. We're going to talk about Spartacus and the expansion. It's Spartacus, a game of blood and treachery, I think. Yes. And then we have the expansion, the Serpents, and the Wolf expansion set. Gale Force 9, hello, great job on a licensed property. Very, very surprise hit. I'm honest, I would have never even given this a try if I hadn't heard such very good things on BGG and from other board gamers that I trust. Not to mention Tom talking about it and how it's good. Real quick, the designers aren't listed and I can't remember their names, so I'm just going to tell you who they are because they deserve some credit here. We have the designers are Aaron Dill, John Kowaleski, and Sean Swigert. So way to go, guys. Good job. This game captures the show. If you've seen the show, it captures it. Now, the show is three things. It's Rome, it's sex, and it's massive amounts of violence in gladiatorial combat. I would say this catches the definitely Roman feel of treachery and power and influence. It most definitely gives you a gladiatorial feel that you're owning actual gladiators. A little bit of a little innuendo for the sexual side of it. There's no actually, it says it's 17 and over, but there's no exposed nudity or anything in here if you're worried about that. There is some language, so you can deal with that as you wish to deal with that. So this captures it. Let's go in and take a closer look at the actual mechanics. Just to give you a brief, you run through phases, which are basically like a screw your neighbor phase with some scheme cards. There's an auction phase, then there's some combat that deals with betting, and then you wash and rinse and repeat, and beautifully done. But here we go. The core of this game is your individual house, Batiatus. Everybody's familiar with from the show. But let me kind of break down what this board is. Your influence is up here. You're able to shorten or lengthen the game based on how much influence you start with. If you want to play a real long game to get the most flavor out of it, you're going to start with just one and work your way up. You can go kind of mid-level 4 or with introductory games, and the only one I've played so far is you start at level 7. The game is over and somebody wins if they're able to achieve 12 influence and last for the completion of the round. The round basically has like 4 phases, and I'll cover that in a little bit. So basically you could hit level 12 in like the second phase, and the other players would have a chance to knock you down with their schemes or whatnot. Each gladiator board, this is what you start off with. It's like your starting assets. 3 gladiators that are very general and generic in nature. There are no superstars, 1 slave, and a couple guard cards. I'll get into these a little bit later. And then each house has their own little special rules. So in this case, if I had my gladiator cards, I can exhaust 2 gladiators to gain 2 gold. Exhausting simply means that, great, I pulled the wrong one here. All right, you have a gladiator, and when you're going to exhaust him, you would simply flip him over to this side, and if I did that with 2 of my gladiators, I would get 2 gold. And then the other one here is discard 3 gladiators to gain an influence. So if I was able to have enough gladiators, 3 of them, to discard, and I was at 7 influence, I can move up to 8. And that's it. And then it also tells you the hand size of schemes, which I'll get into in a second, that you can hold in your hand. So you want to be able to have scheme cards because some of them are just, you got to play them at the right time. But this is the houses we'll show you. So you'll recognize them from the show if you've seen them. And even those that haven't seen the show, I mean, the information's there and their special rules are really what matter here and what they start off with. So, but it's very nice. The coloring, the aspect, this symbol is used when you're betting. You'll be betting out on the board into these areas here when there's actual combat occurring. And you have little tokens that match this that go on your little gold doubloons or, sorry, I know it's not doubloons, too much trading the Mediterranean. Your gold coins, and you'll just put them out there and bet. And you've got these different houses, the different special rules, the different setup, how much gold they start with. And really the expansion right here, of course, is one of them, is the key just to get these different houses that you can start with. So, all right, we'll move away from that. I'll talk about the phases real quick, and I'll show you this little turn summary card that's great. You have the upkeep phase, which is just at the beginning of the next round. Any cards that you've flipped over and exhausted, they'll turn over and they refresh. If you've got a gladiator that was injured in some way, whether in combat or through a scheme, you get to roll a dice and try to heal them. They can die at this point if you were to roll the 1, but hopefully you get them injured and get them back in. And balancing the ledgers is simply any gladiators you have in your house cost you 1 gold. Any slaves give you a gold. You're going to be dealt some cards, and the cards are going to do different things, and I'm going to show you a few of them. First of all, this is very important. When I talked on your little board here, in order to pull off this little reaction, and I'm going to actually start with a scheme, which is a blue one first, I would have to have at least a 3 influence to pull it off. So I could be a pretty, uninfluential person and be able to pull this off. This one over here is going to take 8. So when it talks about that, that's what they're talking about there. Let me show you a couple of these blue cards first. These are the schemes. So I have an unlocked gate. I can literally pick any other dominus. That's a person that owns one of these different gladiator houses, and I can target them. And I must choose, whoever I choose must discard 1 ready slave. So they've got a slave that's in their house, and they simply have to get rid of that slave altogether. This takes no influence to pull off. I could just turn it into the bank and make 1 gold coin for it if I wanted to, but I mean, this would be a great one to play on somebody. The other cool thing about this game is, much like Rome, at any point in time, I can say, hey, I'm going to play this on you. You know what? I can get 1 gold from the bank. If you give me 2 gold from the bank, I'll just, not play it on you. I'll discard it for an extra gold. Or you can make any deal you want. Or somebody you're playing it on can say, hey, I'll pay you 2 gold. You play it on my neighbor over there. Look at all his slaves or her slaves. So unlock gate. Guards are real cool. Guards can be held in your hand, or they can be something you have as an asset that's actually inside your house and just sitting on the bottom of your board. A guard allows you to try to stop a scheme. You'll simply play your guard. This card will get discard after you try to play it. You'll roll a dice, and 4 to 6, you're going to foil that scheme. 1 to 3, the guard didn't do what he or she was supposed to do. Next phase here again, then we go to the market phase. Market's real cool. It's just basically an open auction. Depending on how many players you have, let's just say we have 4 players, you're going to set these cards down on the board. Before you do that, you can try to buy and sell gladiators that are in your house to other people, or slaves or guards. And but after that, you're going to simply flip this up and you're going to take a look at it, and this would be a slave, but he's like a doctor, and he's going to help you if you fail in healing during the upkeep. He'll allow you to do a reroll. So this would be bid on. It's a closed fist bid. All the money's hidden here. You put in whatever you want to bid. Everybody's fist comes out. Once everybody's up, you reveal. If there's a tie, everybody else is out of the bid. The money goes back to them. They don't lose the money. And you come in with, the people that are tied, reveal again until you finally get somebody that wins it by money value. If by chance both people come in with an empty hand, the card actually just gets kicked out. Nobody gets it. Okay, again, combat is very abstracted. What's shown here is what your dice allotments are going to be. So this little guy here, the thing in the pit, who apparently is really nasty, he's got 4 red dice, which will be his attack dice, 3 defense, and 3 speed. We've got Roscos, and he's going to have just 3, 3, and 3. Now, there's going to be bets that are going to go on as these 2 folks are chosen for a folks. See, I like they're gentle. These gladiators, I can't say the word. These gladiators are going to be bet on before. You can bet just simply that one of the 2 of them is going to win. You can bet that someone will be injured. That pays 2 to 1. If you just pick the victor, it's 1 to 1. Or you can bet on decapitation, which also pays 2 to 1. So you've got some interesting things you can do bet-wise. With him in here, decapitation's a possibility. But let's ignore their special abilities on this one, I'll explain. These 2 guys, in order to be in combat, they must be adjacent to each other. So if my guy here was going to be rolling his attack dice, he's going to roll his dice, he's going to get his result, the defender in this case is going to roll his defense dice, and he's going to get his result. This is pitiful. You're going to see, because all you're going to do is simply line these up, largest to smallest. So we've got a 6-5-3 versus the 2-1-1, and he's going to take our little thing in the pit here, would have taken 3 hits. It's devastating. Now, how he does hits is he has to simply peel off dice that are not going to be available to him anymore. So he's really hurt himself. Let's just say he were to peel off his attack dice. He can simply get rid of all 3 attack dice. You must always leave 1 of each color. It's called the rule of 1. But let's just say he got rid of those because I want to show you the other aspects. He would be very weakened on his attacks at this point in time. I should have shown, before you even start each round of combat, both players roll their speed dice. The one with the higher number is going to have the initiative. They can either move first or allow the other player to move first and then react to them. And then the number of actual blue dice you have in your pool is how many hexes you can move on the battlefield. So as you lose these, it's as if you're wounded or becoming exhausted, and you're slowly not going to be able to move much and really control the pace of the combat at all. And then if you've seen, if you're removing your defense dice, you start to run into a problem where you simply are not going to have dice that can even match up. You won't even have a chance of winning. But they did a real nice thing here. Let's say the dice roll had been to this effect. Obviously you would have lost these two, 6-2, 5-1. But if you ever have a die rolled against an unopposed or open area, you still have to get at least a 3, 4, 5, or a 6. So you still got great odds, but there is a chance on a 1 or a 2, or if this guy were to just whiff and roll all 1s, that you could still come out with no damage. And it's a very nice aspect. And the fact that battle goes back and forth and both sides are just losing dice, and what happens is the way you finally determine a winner and a loser is the rule of 1. So you can never get rid of, you always must keep at least 1 of your dice. Now, if I go into combat and I lose, if I lose 1 dice, I've simply lost the combat. 1 die, I've simply lost the combat, and we would determine the betting schemes on that. If I lose 2 of them, so if he would have done 2 damage with me with his attack die, my gladiator's now been injured. He's going to receive an injury token, and he won't be able to come back and fight for me until he gets healed. And if I'd lost all 3 of my dice, he would be decapitated. And now you can see why this guy is so dangerous. It's actually hard to kind of get them on that just based on the way the dice are worked out. Decapitations are rare, unless you got the guy in the pit, and then he apparently is nasty. I have not seen this guy, must be in season 3. And there you go. There's your combat. And then you just restart your phases again. You go back to your upkeep phase. I did skip one thing in the market phase, which is huge, the host. You're going to bid for whoever's going to host the games. It's done just like the auction. You got to pay money for it, so your money goes in secretly. You reveal your money. The host is key because the host is going to decide who's going to be in the combat. If you're going to be first person in combat, second person in combat. And you're also going to determine if there's a loser, unless it's a decapitation. If there's an actual loser in the combat, you can decide up or down if they live or die. So you can still kill them off. Now, if you kill them off and they're a favored gladiator, you're going to take some hits in terms of your influence. So it's not just free and easy movement, but it's a lot of power. And you can make some money. You know, somebody can pay you money in order to get into the fight, or they might want to pay you money not to fight. Because if they flat out refuse, so if you pick somebody that's got a super weak gladiator to go in against a stud, and he just flat out refuses or she refuses to go in and fight, they lose an influence. So being the host, you can really kind of push things, push people around at the table. Very cool, a lot of flavor. Well done, Gale Force 9. Well done. One other thing to mention was that my original board, this is not a review copy. The Gladiator combat board was warped. And I want to mention that I contacted Gale Force 9 via email, just as a customer who purchased the game, told them I had a warped board. I was contacted the very next day. I can't remember the gentleman's name, via email. he said to please give him my address and a new board would be on its way. I think I had sent a couple photos just to show what I was dealing with. Within 2 days, I had this new board, no warpage at all, and their customer service was phenomenal. So if by chance you do get a board that warps, contact them and they'll take care of it. And great, wonderful, wonderful. Again, Gale Force 9, good job, great customer service. So I've given you my impression of the overall game. You know I already liked it. I want to tell you a little something about the expansion. The expansion allows you to go up to 6 players. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really like playing with 6 players. It lengthens the game even more, and as I've shown you with the influence track and the influence points you start at, I actually like to start with less influence, which also lengthens the game, and then if you add 6 people to it, it just gets heavier and heavier and longer. And when you have more people, you're not in the action as much. So what I like to use the expansion for, I still think 4 players is beautiful, but I love the 2 extra houses that come in this, the gladiatorial houses that you can add in and the special powers they have. I think this is a must-buy not only for that reason, but for a lot of the different treachery cards. The fact that you can go in and do a Primus, which is the large final, gladiatory fight. Gladiatory, I said it again, I'm sorry. With 4 gladiators that are in the mix. But I'm telling you, I don't know, I just stay away from the 6-player deal. It feels like I'm more out of the action. So, but that gives you a feel. This is a go out and get as long as you're a fan of Roman style backstabbery. I love gladiators, and although this doesn't really focus on the gladiator combat, it's there. The dice system I think is really well done and elegant and easy to get in and out of. My wife would never go for this game, but because of the show, she gets it, she understands it, and I wouldn't say it's her favorite, but she definitely enjoys, playing the different schemes and references it back to the show. So good. Now, Gale Force 9, please do this well with Firefly. Please do this well. See you guys. Chief, bye.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.